Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joe Allen. I'm the Executive Director of the Reman Industries Council, and welcome to our second of our webinar series in 2016. And today, our topic is leveraging sustainable remanufacturing solutions in today's marketplace. This should be a really good and fun webinar. Our guest speaker is Bill Davies, who is president of Davies Office, and he has, I think, a very engaging discussion and presentation for us today. From a just housekeeping standpoint, I'd like to ask everyone, if you could, feel free to go on mute so we don't get any extra competing sounds. And also, whatever you do, do not put your call on hold. We'll get to listen to your music, so don't do that. With no further ado, I'll turn this over to Bill, and at the end of Bill's presentation, we'll have time for Q&A. So Bill, I'll turn this over to you. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this webinar today.
Thank you, Joe. And just to highlight what we're going to talk about today, we actually operate in the furniture sector. So we are a remanufacturer in the office furniture sector, and that's the sector that we know, we live and breathe. And what we're going to talk about, there are going to be parallels and there's going to be common threads that you can use probably throughout all of the reman sectors. We're talking about what we've done and how we've leveraged sustainable remanufacturing solutions in today's marketplace. We're going to break that down into different segments. And the segments, number one, is knowing your market, knowing what's your market, where do you compete, what are you looking to do, how well do you know your market, and how well are you targeting the changes that are happening in your market. And the second would be providing solutions or options for people to consider or your clients to consider, looking at those options and basically leveraging those options in a sustainable way. The third would be validation. How do you validate with third-party metrics and parties to basically quantify that we are doing a good job? And the last thing is to celebrate and to share our wins. So I'm going to start off with the actual first topic, which I said, know your market. So when you look at our market in furniture, our market is driven by statistics from the Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturers Association, and they're headquartered in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And what they do is they track all of the OE's activities, and those activities deal with production and consumption U.S. So when you look at this graph that we put up on the screen here, the blue constitutes what you see as original equipment manufacturers, the OE's portion of the marketplace, the green represents Reman. So the overall consumption, you can see we've gone back to 1990. We've tracked actually 26 years, and it's a roller coaster ride. And you're seeing that basically in the economies today throughout many, many sectors. But you can see ours, it peaked in 1999 to 2000, where we reached probably the highest point of overall consumption was close to $16 billion. Our sector is not a huge sector. It dropped down just after the tech bust in 2001. It got down around below just about $10 billion. It basically came back again strong till about 2007 and 2008 till we crashed and hit that recession. And it's gradually ticking up right now that you see. So what you're going to see is the marketplace that we participate in. Remanufacturing represents about 15% of the total consumption, and that's that green line that you see. I went and looked at BIFMA statistics for 2016 and 2017 on a go-forward basis, and BIFMA projects that production in 2016 will be about 10.3 billion, consumption about 13.4, 2007, which is an increase, not a big increase in production of about 1%, and consumption about 3.9, And in 2017, BIFMA projects production to increase to 10.8 billion, which is a 4.8% increase, and consumption to increase to 14.4, which is a 7.2% increase. And what's interesting in these statistics, when you look at this, and we'll just extrapolate out, this is just the reman and refurb portion of it. You saw the up and down cycles in total consumption previously. This is just the marketplace that we at Davies exist in and compete in on a day-to-day basis. So go back to 1990, we were basically less than 4% of overall consumption in the marketplace, and today, BIFMA statistically says that we represent about 15% of the overall consumption in the U.S. Now, what does that look like? That looks like that graph is just going up. So we've seen a contiguous average on a per-year basis annually of about 8% growth across our sector in reman in the office furniture marketplace today. So that's where we compete. Now, one of the things we have to consider is we don't compete in all segments of that sector. We compete predominantly in what we call systems furniture or cubicles, the Dilbert cube. So when you look at, and we took a snapshot of between the years 2000 and 2012, just on office furniture alone, and 2000 and 2012, roughly there was almost $120 billion of office furniture sold in the U.S., and out of that, 35% was systems furniture, cubicles, and the things that we rebuild on a daily basis, which is almost $42 billion in sales. So when we look at that sector, that was the core that exists in the marketplace that we're going to go back and look at how can we extract that core and use that core and rebuild that core in a sustainable way. How can we make money? So what do? We got to know the trends. We got to know what's happening in the marketplace, and it's evolving in all marketplaces. But in our sector, what you're seeing happen today is everybody wants to do more with less. They want to basically operate and on a reduced footprint size. So in other words, they're shrinking the real estate platform, they're giving up space, and they're shrinking the overall occupied space that each full-time employee has. They're also saying we want to do something that's more collaborative. We want an open workspace. We want to be more innovative. We want it to be open. We don't want it to let natural light wash in. Well, that's not necessarily what they've been, that has basically been a legacy product that's been installed from the year 2000 to the year 2016, and we did the snapshot. Because in the old days, what you saw were basically a lot of the cubicles that you see on the left-hand side here were monolithic panel systems that basically boxed people in, and it was the Dilbert cube. They could have been 65 inches high. They basically divided space, and people had a little area to work in. Today, they want a different space. They want something lower. They want to let the light wash in. They want it to be creative. They want it to be friendly. They want it to be, we use the term, a lot of people use the term Google eyes. They want to be wowed, okay? So the millennials come in, they want to have a nice place to work. They don't want that old stuff. So how do you get and how do you convert existing assets into the product that people want today? We'll talk about that in a second. But more importantly, what happens to existing cores in the marketplace? In our sector, typically they're thrown away, and it's amazing. So what you see happening in our sector, and when you take a look at it, you're seeing piles of product that are going into the landfill. So you see a lot of the scrap metal that's happening, a lot of the different furniture pieces and parts are being tossed into the dumps and the landfills because people are assuming that you can't extract out of it what you need for today's environment. So the EPA actually has estimated statistically that about 3 million tons of office furniture and furnishings are discarded every year. That means they're just being tossed or going out. There's no core value. We're basically filling up landfills with stuff, and that's just in our sector alone. So you'd have to look at your sector and relate to that. Now, how can we deal with that? What do we have to do to be able to leverage solutions or sustainable solutions going forward? We've got to provide options for clients. And the options for clients today have to be sustainable options. They have to deal with environmental stewardship. They also have to be economically attractive. If we can't save people money, today, they tend not to even look at our solution, and they've got to be up to date. I mentioned a little bit earlier, they've got to be what the current office environment and the millennials and the people that are working in the office space today want. So they've got to look, feel, and work just like new product. And if you look on the left-hand side, we've given some examples of that. The old panels that you saw previously are now lower. They've got up-mount glass on them. You can see a glass divider right here. It's a smaller space, but it's more it utilizes an efficiency of storage and design of space better than ever before. But it also is open, so it looks good, it feels good, it costs less money, because typically on reman product in our sector, we promote and basically validate that our cost versus new, the delta of savings is between 40 and 70% less than new product. And it's sustainable, and we'll show you what we mean by sustainable. So what we had to do is look at, okay, where are all these cores, where is all this excess inventory going today? We just said a second ago it's going into the landfill. So what's happening? Corporations are dealing with inventories that they're basically paying to store if they have not fully depreciated them. So they're putting them in warehouses, and they're costing them the money to store them. And at the end of its life cycle, what are they doing with it? Well, technically today, it's like any other market, supply and demand driven. When you look at the marketplace, nobody wants old furniture, so most of it's going into the landfill. Clients can't give it away. They have to, in fact, in many cases, it's a negative scenario where they have to pay to dispose of the asset. So what are some creative solutions that you could come up with that would let a client extract value out of the cores that he has and the old product and over here and the worn date out and get what he wants today, which is a new collaborative benching workstation? Well, our team came up with some fairly creative ways to look at and put together sustainable options for consideration across the platform. And we call it core exchange, sustainable exchange, sustainable banking. And what it consists of is there's two categories of product that we're finding that clients have. They have product that they're storing and not using, but they can't do anything with it because it's still on the books. And then they have product that they're actually sitting and using every single day. And that product may be 5, 10, 15 years old. So they have two different types of product. If they have product and if that product exists today, that product is typically depreciated on a schedule. If you look at this, fixed asset schedule depreciated for furniture is really a 5 to 7 year cycle. So once you acquire an asset, you have a 5 to 7 year window of time to fully depreciate it. That's the average. There are some people who do it quicker, and there are some people that take a little bit longer to do. And what we've actually done is we've looked at what we call like-kind exchange. You might look at it from your standpoint in your sector under IRS 1031, which is, you may think of it as real estate, but it also deals with personal property if you go and look at code. So what we're saying to a client is, we have created a solution that allows you to take your old product, deposit it with us, and take out what you need over here. And what are the value propositions for doing that? Well, number one, in like-kind exchange, if you're depreciating that asset right now, and you're in a 5 to 7 year window of time, and you decide you don't need it any longer, the option that you've got today is you take a huge loss to the bottom line or a major hit. And I'll give you an example of that. We had a client that was in Norwalk, Connecticut that had 1,000 workstations. So look at this column right here. They wanted to give up 2 floors of 9 floors they occupied in a headquarter building. They had 1,000 workstations. The product was 2.5 years old. It came from Steelcase, if you're familiar with some of the OEs that participate in our marketplace. They wanted to restack the building. They wanted to shrink the overall workstation size. So they came to our team and said, what can you do to help us? And we said, our design team can show you how to reduce the footprint size from an 8x8 to a 6x6. So we went from 48 square feet to 36 square feet, less space. They said, listen, we have to have enough spaces for all of our full-time employees that are on 9 floors, but we only want to occupy 7 floors. So we had to redesign all of the floors, all of the remaining 7 floors, to get everybody to fit, which we did do. And they gave up 2 full floors in a building. They saved on real estate costs. They also came to us and said, our option with the new OE is they want us to throw everything out that we have that doesn't work to get to that size and buy all new. And we said, you don't need to do that. We can show you how to do that. We can actually create and re-index and resize products so you get to where you need to be. Long story short, on a head-to-head competitive analysis against the original equipment manufacturer that provided them furniture, we saved them $500,000. So we got the deal. Now, in addition to that, think about this for a second. You're sitting in 1,000 workstations. They're all tall workstations. They're 65 inches high. They had individual storage towers in every one of those stations. They had overhead units. They didn't need those anymore when they went down to 53 inches high. They were going to basically just toss those out. They were going to scrap every one of those. They would have gotten, at that point in time, I think they would have got $10 a unit for the storage unit because scrap metal was high at the time. Today they get nothing for it, and they probably got to pay to dispose of it. So we saved them $500,000, restocked the building, and lo and behold, the chief financial officer comes to us and says, oh, by the way, we still have that furniture on the books, and we've only depreciated it for 50% of its full life. We still have 2.5 years remaining on those assets. And we said, well, that's great, okay, because what you can do with all those parts and pieces that we're going to harvest as we re-index to that size, we'll let you bank those cores with us for future needs. So you can continue your depreciation schedule with us. So not only did we save them $500,000 on a net competitive situation head-to-head against the OE, but they were able to offset $2.5 million in costs that they would have had written down, and they banked with us on a go-forward basis that they used for projects in Napa Valley, California, they used in Toronto, Canada, and it wasn't the same product. So under like-kind exchange, you can continue that depreciation schedule. What it also does, pillar number 2, cost avoidance. I mentioned earlier, typically what people are doing today is they're holding on to assets. They're holding on to them so that they can depreciate them. But if they're acquiring another company, if there's mergers or acquisitions, they're ending up with things that other people own. Okay? They're ending up with things that other people own, and they don't know what to do with it, so they hold on to it and they pay to store it. They pay to store assets in many cases that they never ever use again, and it can cost real dollars. We've had one client that was storing product in a warehouse, was paying $15,000 a month to store product, and we said, well, show us your asset turn on those assets as to how often you're using those assets on an annualized basis. And they came back and they said, we're really not. I said, well, okay, you're really not. Then basically, what are you paying on a monthly basis? They said, we're paying $15,000 a month. That's $180,000 a year. 3 years later, they're still not using it. That's real money. That's over $500,000 that they're paid to store an asset they never use. What we'll allow you to do with our product exchange and banking, give us the asset, you deposit the core with us, and we give you a credit on a carry-forward basis against what you need in the future. So you should be out of the storage business. It's basically a cost avoidance. We've done this for major clients like Bank of America, Federal Express, and others, and eliminated millions of dollars in warehouse costs, basically that they were paying to hold assets that they never ever used. Third value. We give a value for today's asset when it's deposited. So in our banking and exchange scenario, if you bought an asset that was 10 to 15 years old, it was at a certain list price by the manufacturer, the OE. That was a lower price 15 years ago than it is today. We will give a client the current manufacturer's OE's list price today. So if they bought an asset, it could conceivably appreciate by 100%. So they bought an asset years ago. They paid for that asset. It was a certain, let's say it was a $50 list price, or let's say $500 list price. Today it may be $1,000. They get today's list price when they deposit that asset, carrying it forward. So that return on investment is huge. Number 4, one of the other features and options that we allow people to do with their cores is we allow them to exchange one brand for another. Think about this for a second. They can exchange Steelcase for Hayworth, Hayworth for Miller, Miller for Knoll. We're pretty much like the Geneva of the office furniture world, very neutral, okay? So what we'll say is to a client, everybody's got a different standard, and they're all grade A manufacturers. If you're not in one standard, but you got a lot of it, deposit it with us and take out what you need. If you're a multinational corporation, if you have multiple locations all over the U.S., if you've acquired other facilities, And there's different assets in those facilities. How do you support the legacy assets? Deposit the excess with us and take out what you need in the new location when you need it. So in other words, we'll convert one asset for another, one brand for another. Beautiful program. It also allows clients to take existing assets that they have, one manufacturer, high panels, and convert them to low panels. So remember what I said earlier. We need to be current aesthetically. We need to basically provide a space that allows clients to have the wow factor, more or less Googleize. The millennials, we all have to be happy in our workspace. So how do you do that when you're working in a high-paneled environment? Deposit it with us. You don't need to take out a high panel. You can take out a low panel with up-mount glass. You can take and convert the panel to a storage unit. You can convert a storage unit to a panel. It gives you total flexibility of assets. And then, last but not least, we have documentation where we can show you the sustainability metrics to be proactive environmental stewardship. So these are the solutions that we provide, and this is our most attractive program today. What it does, I said this a second ago, it allows you to take any one of these brands and convert to another. So we will be, in essence, the bank. We'll do the conversion for you. The one caveat is, when you take your product out, you have to take it out completely remanufactured, and you pay us to bring it back to like-new condition. So you are paying us, but we have possession of your asset and use of your asset. You don't need to store it, and we can basically apply it or give it to whoever we deem necessary. So we have created a vehicle that allows conversion. It allows clients to basically, if they're heavy in steel case and not in Miller, we have another client that needs something, we become the conversion method. So when you see that up here, you see trade in your assets towards existing or future needs. Product exchange is another offset of that. Product exchange relates to if you're sitting in an asset and you can't give that asset up, we will front you what you need in the new location. So you could be in 3 different locations in the U.S. and say we're going to consolidate to one location, but we got 3 different core brands. We got Steelcase, we got Herman Miller, we got Knoll, and we want Hayworth. Well, what we'll let you do is we'll give you what you need in the new spec. We'll remanufacture it to spec. We'll deliver and install. You do a box move into the new space. We go back in and harvest the cores on the back end and then put them back into the sustainable bank. So there's a whole complete cycle going through. Circular economy, we're using the assets, we're getting value out of the assets. It also is terrific because clients have no downtime. You do what you do to make money. We do what we do in terms of reman. So depending upon if you're in the financial sector, continue to do that. If you're in insurance, continue to do that. Don't stop what you're doing. We'll front you what you need. We'll work with you. Tremendous savings, tremendous program. Largest projects to date, we did 3,000 workstations for Kodak years ago, but typically, we just finished one for Geico that was 1,700s in Dallas, Texas, where they actually exchanged product in Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Dallas for what they needed in their new tower building, all right? So these are the different assets. These are the different benefits of that sustainable exchange program. I'm not going to go through them again. You'll see that. And this is available at our website, so you want to go back and take a look. We also do what we call upgrades, retrofits, but they're retrofits by parties that are deemed as the experts in our industry. When you see this over here, and every sector has their own display area or show or national show, we have what we call Neocon in Chicago for furniture. We are the only remanufacturer ever to get awarded at Neocon, and we got one in 2008, and we got one in 2014. In 2008, it was for this up-mount glass, and we created a universal up-mount glass that was basically to be added to anybody's systems furniture. We had OEs coming through thinking it was an offshoot of their own brand when they saw it. We had to send them back down to the floor where they were exhibiting and say, no, this is our remanufactured solution. We're actually making your product a little bit better. So this is, that was one, and then we'll show you the next one. This is one we got in 2014 where we actually showed clients where they could reindex cores that they had, and cores to us are what you see here. You see, here's a tower unit typical, here's a lateral file, here's a pedestal. So I'll show you what we did to each one of these things. We took this storage unit, and remember, I was saying high to low. So everybody wants to reduce the overall height of their panels, let natural light wash into the space. Typically, in the standard model, in today's marketplace, OEs are going to say, throw it out and buy new. We're going to say, no, we'll take this core right here, and we'll re-engineer this core down to this size right here. So instead of disposing of this core, and if you get 10 bucks for it, you're lucky, you'll take a unit that costs you $900 net from an OE, and we'll turn it into this for 350 bucks. So you do the math. The same thing with a lateral file. Here's a 4-drawer lateral file. We'll actually take that 4-drawer, we'll basically reverse engineer and machine it down, and we'll get a 3-drawer unit out of it. We've taken a box file unit right here. We're going to take that top drawer off. We're going to put a basic cushion on it, casters. Now you got a mobile ped. So we're looking at creative ways to basically extract value out of existing cores because they're really, really well built and provide value for the client. That's one of our displays at NeoCon. It shows the open space. This is all remanufactured product, not typical of the colors. We do it just for effect. All right. Now, typically we deal with a lot of different product lines. What you're seeing here is interesting. This is a pile of furniture that came from Bank of America in Charlotte, North Carolina. They were throwing it in the landfill. We're decommissioning a tower building. This on the right-hand side was a solution we created for Aetna Life and Casualty in Hartford, Connecticut. We went in and called on them, and we basically got a contract with Aetna for their overall furniture asset management. They said, what about our private offices? He said, what is your standard? They said, we use steel case elective elements. This is what it looks like. And we said, we've got a client that right now is disposing of assets, and we think we can basically create what you need. So we did a mock-up, and we actually made this overhead hutch. So this hutch unit we made, we re-indexed these sizes, these work surfaces here, created what you see on the right-hand side, took these overhead binder bins that were a panel hung and put them in a fixed carrel. We made this in our shop, in our factory, put LED lighting and put tack boards in. We saved the client on a per office basis $6,700 net, and they've saved over $1.5 million to date. Same exact product. They were buying it new from the steel case. They bought it from us. But what was it? It was cores that we basically harvested from the Bank of America in Charlotte, North Carolina. They got a positive value for it. Aetna saved $6,700 over their cost, and we made money on the remand of things. Here's another example. Okay, these are cores that came in. So we take these high panels. These are actually in a rack. They're 65 inches in length, and this is the height. They're on end. They're on a pallet now. But typically, we'll take that and re-index that into what we consider benching today, because everybody wants a benching or collaborative areas. So we'll take these panels, we'll cut them down in our shop and bring them back to this height right here. We'll put upbound glass on it, give it a new look. We put power data here. This is a new unit that we integrate. This is a remanufactured chair. We did this for CSC and saved them a ton of money. One more example. This is permanent ethos space. This is for GE, their battery division. We competed against new OEs. We took the old product that they had in from all over and let them exchange what they needed, and they both exchanged and deposited excess assets, and we created and then leveraged the cores into a new space and created this environment for them. So what you'll see in here is, as an update, this is new seating. These towers are new, but everything else is remanufactured. We made the tables. And what we did is we integrated or retrofitted and put the ambient lights, which basically are up-down lights. There are no overhead lights. These are all on sensors, and we actually put power and data at desk height. So again, we've got to be able to create the same exact type of environment that new furniture is going to create, or we don't play the game. Okay, if you're going to provide a sustainable solution and you're going to give clients options, you got to validate. We all know how good we are, right? And we do. I mean, people come in and say, and we know we can save people money, and we know we're doing the right thing. But you have to have somebody validate that you're doing the right thing. So we partnered with a number of folks. We first started out with Nabil Nasser at RIT, at the Rochester Institute of Technology for the National Center for Resource Recovery and Remanufacturing, and now the Golisano Institute for Sustainability. And we brought Nabil in the year 2005, and we said, you need to do an analysis of our whole process to tell us that we're doing the right thing. And we need metrics. So they sent a grad team in. They spent 18 months at our facility, and in the middle of the findings, Nabil called me up and he goes, hey, Phil, we're not sure, we're not sure this is going to work, and what if it doesn't? And I said, Nabil, if it doesn't work and the findings aren't what we think they should be, we'll put it on a shelf like everybody else does. But at the end of the day, it came out so terrific that you could tell by these individuals getting excited. we showed the reduction in CO2 emissions, landfill avoidance, natural resource conservation, and energy savings, and metrics we're able to use and actually use as a reporting tool for all of our clients. You'll see that in a second. Huge. Level, BIFMA. We talked about BIFMA statistics a couple of seconds ago. Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturers Association. You can go to their website if you'd like. It's bifma.org. They came up, and there was a standard. We were getting pushback in our industry, and I talk about all office furniture, from green labels like Green Guard. So I'm not just talking about Reman people. I'm talking about OEs. We wanted to own our own sustainability standards. So we actually partnered with ANSI and developed what we call a level, and you'll see what level is in a second. And then, last but not least, we've worked with the U.S. Green Building Council and their leadership in energy and environmental design. So those are three parties we work with, and we're going to show you some of the tools that we've done. With LEED, we basically work with clients that want to have LEED projects, whether for interiors, and these are some of the categories that they can get points or credits when they're going to get a LEED certification for an interior for a building. So we have a LEED AP on our staff. His name is Doug Pilgrim, and we basically work with a client to show them how to achieve those LEED points and working with us. Now, this is level. When I talked about that a second ago from BIFMA, and level it's a multi-attributed sustainability standard, third-party certification, and it deals with three categories. It deals with product, facilities, and the organization. So those are the categories that are measured over here. And there's four impact areas. On the right-hand side, you see what they are. They're material, energy and atmosphere, human and ecosystem, and social responsibility. Now, what's interesting about this is that you need a minimum 32 points. It's got to be validated. You get audited by a third party. It's unannounced. Well, I say somewhat announced. They tell you a couple of days before they come that they're coming. And you've got to measure up to the criteria that ANSI and BIFMA put together. And out of the 32 points, only 6 of them deal with the product. The balance of the points are achieved for materials, energy and atmosphere, human and ecosystem, social responsibility. So they actually come through and they actually interview individuals on the work floor. They talk to them about our sociability program. They'll look and they'll audit our energy consumption, water consumption. They'll look at historical averages to see what we're doing. And the good news is we have achieved certification, and we've been level certified since BIFMA started this. We're the only remanufacturer in the country in our sector that's level certified. There's no other remanufacturers in our sector that have level certification. It's a 3-year certification, and we actually have 9 product lines. We've got Steelcase. There's a number of lines in Steelcase, Herman Miller, Hayworth, and Knoll that are all level certified products. This is important because when you look at the federal government and you look at buying initiatives and consumption, more and more people are basically specifying that you must have a sustainability certification of some standing, and they're using level as that criteria in our sector, which is helping us immensely because, again, we're the first and only remanufacturer that's level certified, so we're the only ones that can compete in that marketplace until everybody else catches up. I would suggest in your own sector to look at other opportunities that you can leverage as well that might be similar to that. This is the study that the RIT did, and it was done in March of 2004, so it's old. We're actually doing an LCA right now, a life cycle assessment with the Golisano Institute. We're basically taking up another notch. We've used this, and you'll see the criteria, and I'd be more than happy to share this with anybody. It's about 36 pages long, but it deals with how many fewer steps we do in reman than new, and I think the total number of steps, the savings is 111 less steps that we have to do. But think about it, when we get a core, if the core is built, we don't have to basically take that core from virgin steel and form it. I mean, we can work with the core that's there, and we can basically improve upon it. So this has been huge for us. Those 3 things have been huge for our sustainability story, to get the message out and to provide solutions for our clients and validate what we do. So here's a typical report card that we do for clients. We have a client, this happens to be, I'll tell you who it is, it's FedEx. These are the number of panels that we did for FedEx in a certain period of time, the number of work surfaces, the UA desk, and files, and we quantified the savings on a energy savings on a per house. If you go back to that study we had RIT do, it could show you per workstation how that equates to those metrics. Landfill avoidance, but specific to activity at FedEx, CO2 emission reduction, over 2 million pounds of CO2 reduced going into the environment, and natural resource savings in terms of saving raw materials that didn't have to be basically extracted from the earth. And we made a hit. I'll tell you, I made a presentation at FedEx as the first 5-year contract, 2004 to 2009. I had to do a 5-year overview. I talk fast, you can hear me, right guys? So I'm in front of this group and they say, you got a half an hour to give us a 5-year overview. And I said, I can do that. Okay, so I got into the overall savings in terms of every operating company, the efficiencies, and I got to the environmental slide, and the individual at the end of the table I met for the first time that day stopped. He goes, stop. And I said, to myself, I didn't say it out loud, I said, I just blew the account. And since we're a woman-owned business and I work for my wife, I said, I lost my job. But at the end of the day, he said, how are you reporting this? And at that point in time, our contact at FedEx jumped up and says, we're getting quarterly reports from Davies, and actually made their annual report because nobody ever before that time was reporting on furniture with third-party validation and metrics for environmental stewardship. Now, that's a summary of the same activity. This is a snapshot without the glide that shows how many workstations we did, how many pieces, what the reduction was, what the overall impact was. It's important to basically let the clients know that they're not only saving money, we're doing the right thing, but you got to quantify it, you got to validate it. All right, here's after you do that, after you validate it, after you quantify it, we like to say we like to celebrate and share our wins. So we had an opportunity, CSC is one of our clients, and they took it upon themselves. When you look at this, you'll see they had an issue, and the issue is the same issue that every single company in the U.S. is dealing with. What do we do with this stuff? They don't call them ports, it's stuff. We got warehouses full of stuff. We're never using this stuff. We're not redeploying it. We never have the right size. We never have the right piece. We never have the right color. We said, you need to bank it with us. You need to get out of the furniture game. That's what we do. You do what you do, we'll become your virtual warehouse. So we created a banking and exchange program for them, and they put this blog up on their site, and they shared it with us. They saved $4 million. But they also, if you take a look in the benefits and you read through this, you'll see the benefits in savings within the region of $4 million a year in warehousing costs alone. That's just warehousing. That's not the cost of the assets and the savings and the differential or the delta between new and reman. We conserve the raw materials, but it helps CSC establish sustainability metrics and commitment. So they're doing the right thing. They're saving money, and it's a cost-effective solution, and it works. That, folks, and I'm finishing a couple of minutes early, this is Reman. This is what we're all about. So my point would be to everybody here, look at creative ways to discover how cores are being used in your sector, explore options that you've got that you may have not considered before, and leverage those options and quantify those metrics, those sustainability metrics that you're utilizing with a third party, because it's not enough for you to go out and tell people how great you are. People are going to believe it if it comes from an independent third party. They're going to believe it, and it really, really does work. So I would finish a couple of minutes early. I'd open it up for any questions that anybody has.